Hi all, let's have a look at another amazing game today from the US Chess Championship. Wesley So playing against Alexander Shabalov. So this is in round 1. C4, the English opening. Shabalov plays C6. Knight f3 after D5. E3 is chosen. So this is a very interesting move. The more common move is simply D4 actually. E3 is played. Knight f6, d4. Now we see bishop g4. Here in live book, bishop f5 is quite popular, as well as just e6 closing in that bishop. So bishop g4, h3, and quite often if black plays bishop g4, the bishop usually takes on f3 here over 700 games, just taking on at f3. This is an alternative, bishop h5. We have a surprising move in this game, kind of, bishop f5. Has been played before. It's interesting. Knight c3 and now e6. Black usually doesn't mind the bishop getting taken off here after g4, bishop g6, knight e5. It's a target. There's no time now for this because of knight takes g6. That would look terrible. So the bishop's taken off. But this h-file dynamic is often neutralized with white fianchettoing. Here in this game we see g5 and now h4. There's a specific idea in mind here that in this game how to handle black's h-file pressure. After knight e7, knight f5, this pawn is going to be attacked again. We see bishop d2 preparing, potentially castling queenside. Knight f5 hitting the pawn. That's protected. So white has the bishop pair, but can he actually do anything with the bishop pair? Hasn't black got rid of one of the best pieces? One of the worst pieces, rather. Here, the c8 bishop. This is the key thing. Has white got h5 later at the right time? We see a6. And white castles queenside. Perhaps because of this simply idea of f4 and h5, black wasn't keen to try and castle kingside here. It's like a ready-made attack now, this situation. Let's just give an example of that. Let's illustrate that. Bishop e7. I believe a move like, let's imagine this. This is going to be fantastic for white. White's virtually winning there with the h-file attack. So basically black, he's not keen to castle. He takes and plays c5. In fact, he's trying to maybe generate some queenside counterplay here. This is taken now. D takes c5. Bishop takes c5. And there is a threat here of knight e5 now. In the earlier situation, if we avoid this recapture here, queen e4 is sufficient for white. Okay, so but now this is addressed with bishop e2, this knight e5 idea. It seems we have bishop e7, king b1. White's thinking of things like rook c1 and h5. It seems queen b6. Things get really interesting now with the queen here. We see a forcing move, knight a4, queen c7, and another one, rook c1. The queen's just being chased. Perhaps the queen should go back to d8 here. For example, queen e4, which looks at b7, knight d6. The queen drops back, rook c8. Black seems okayish, but it is a slight edge for white. But in the game we see queen d6, and now actually there's a slight weakness of the last move. Bishop a5 accentuates black's dark square weaknesses over here, threatening bishop c7 to further harass the queen. Knight e5 hitting white's queen, queen e4. Looking at b7 now. Knight c6. The queen's harassed again. And we see here, notes though, h4, it's taken here, f4. So is this worth a pawn? What's happening over here? Knight b6 with the king in the center. The king's still in the center. This is really, really dangerous. this position. As an example, if knight takes a5, then check is killing. For example, king f8, knight d7, forks queen and king. And here, knight c6, white can just play rook takes c6 with the same effect. It's pretty crushing. If ever the king moves, there's knight d7 check. That's horrible. So that bishop is immune. We see knight d6. But now queen a4 anyway, threatening rook takes c6. Rook a7 trying to defend. And black's pieces are trying to huddle against the c6 pressure. Bishop f3, white's maximizing it. On knight takes a5, there might... Let's have a look at this position. Sorry, it's pinned anyway. There's nothing to have a look at there because it's pinned. Okay, it's unpinned though with knight b5. We see now queen c2 threatening bishop takes c6. Now here, if knight takes a5, queen c8 looks absolutely murderous. It's a false mate. Yeah, of course it's a false mate. This is just a false mate. Yeah, absolutely murderous here. So very difficult position after queen c2. If king f8, we're back to knight d7 check. If knight d6, this is good. Bishop takes, queen takes, and we're back to knight d7 check, winning the exchange here. But this is crushing. Black can threaten mate for a moment, but this is absolutely crushing. On knight d8, this is on this retreat, queen c2, knight d8, rook d7 threatening rook takes e7. So for example like this is murderous. Like that. That's a nice family fault there. So yeah, it's a very unpleasant position here after queen c2. Very unpleasant. Putting the pressure back on c6. Black's very awkwardly placed, very passively placed, discoordinated. Just, yeah, huge pressure. Not a nice round one game against the Super Grandmaster. Queen c7, just under gigantic pressure. And the game ends here after rook d7. It's just totally hopeless. These queen tempo gains were just absolutely crushing, it seems. They transformed white's pressure to gigantic proportions. In the final position here, if queen b8, bishop takes c6, queen takes c6. If the king tries to run here, queen c8 check is mating. It's just a very, very unpleasant position, yeah. So after rook d7 the game ended. Yeah, it's very dramatic how I guess black wanted to play a solid opening the Slav. This, I know everyone can recognise there's a tempo loss, but it's supposed to be quite close. What really opened things up were very technical moves actually, like knight a4, bishop a5 in particular. So exploiting a lack of precision on black's part to have to be subjected to tempo gains a lot of the time, and white with the king in the centre, it's very, very dangerous. The c6 point in particular was emphasised dramatically, that c-file target, and the bishop coming to f3. Yeah, he made it look quite easy, but very, very precise play from Wesley So to really bring out these elements of the position, in my view. And I hope you got something from it. Comments, questions, likes appreciated. Thanks very much.